Well, it's got to be in the garage somewhere. There must be one of these boxes around here. Where the heck is it? Ah, there it is. The LC Racing emb-t 1/14 scale 4-wheel drive truggy. I've been waiting for quite some while for this baby to arrive, so let's check it out and see why. Oh, and if you're thinking low seat Mini 8T, you wouldn't be far off. The speed at which it covers the distance from there to there is absolutely frightening. Given a 3-foot run up. Well, I unboxed quite a few RC cars, but I'm telling you now, I cannot wait to unbox the LC Racing emb-t because the spec on paper on this thing makes it extremely good indeed. It is around about $275. You might be thinking that's a bit for a 1/14 scale. This is upper level from the WL Toys cars. This is like the Rolls Royce of those cars in terms of suspension setup, design of the car, how much metal is in the car, quality of the metal, etc, etc. Anyway, let me get this out of the box and talk you through the spec, because I can guarantee you will be impressed with this thing, and hopefully I will be by the handling outside. Now it's ready to run, but you will need 4A batteries for the transmitter. What sets this apart from the outset? 35 amp Hobbywing ESC, fully programmable. That should be a good indicator as to what lies within this box. 4-pole, 2850 size brushless motor, and that brushless motor is 4,500 kV, which given the weight of this thing, I should think that it's going to be an absolute firecracker. Anyway, let's see what we get for our money. Which is our instruction manual, and straight away I can see we've got details on that programmable ESC. A few stickers for the car. Did I say ready to run? Well, on the outside of the box it said it comes with the 7.2 volt nickel metal hydride battery, but it doesn't. It comes with a 2S 1800 milliamp 20C LiPo. Outstanding. And that ESC is supposedly 3S rated. Might test that later. And a transmitter. I wouldn't normally rave on about these. You might be thinking, well, that looks quite nice with the carbon fibre trim there, Richie. That's not what I'm liking from the outset on here. It's that Fly Sky transmitter on here. I did say these LC Racing cars were like WL Toys ones, but the Rolls Royce version on here. Accordingly, we have reversible steering, reversible throttle, steering trim, throttle trim, steering dual rate, on-off switch, and our bind button on there. I am quite liking the feel of that. 4A batteries in the bottom, and we should be good to go. Well, from the outset, the LC Racing emb-t does look like it's going to be seriously motor along. There is a lot to like about this. I'm loving the tyre tread for a start, which does appear to be super grippy. We've got threaded big ball shocks all round, fully adjustable, as are the turnbuckles at the rear and at the front as well. And up the front, we've also got metal CVD drive shafts. And backing up, what feels like a super smooth suspension on there. 2.5mm thick aluminum plate on the bottom. Anyway, let me get the body off. Let's have a closer look at this baby. Well, from the outset, I can tell you right now, this is going to be a monster of a machine when I take it outside and have a play around with the thing. First of all, the suspension feels absolutely super smooth all round. We've got threaded big ball shocks at the rear and at the front. Fully adjustable turnbuckles all round on the car as well. Everything married up to a 2.5mm thick chassis plate on there. At the front, tucked away in here, we have got metal CVD drive shafts, which is always going to be a good indication. And literally, that suspension feels absolutely super smooth. So I might find some jumps to take this out on over the weekend. And those tyres, I have a feeling with this tread on here, they are going to grip like absolute crazy. The LC Racing emb-t should be a bit more stable than the buggy version, as it is slightly longer, which also means the electrics aren't as crowded on the inside of the car. Speaking of which, let's get that body off and have a look. Now, a bit of good news I showed you earlier is it came with the Gens Ace battery. Doesn't just come with one though, there is already a second one installed inside the car. So I'm loving this even more. The truggy bodies, this traditional truggy racing body, is one of those kind of love it or hate it things that you will either like the look of this car or you won't. But the one thing you will definitely love is the handling of this thing. Having driven small truggies like the low seat Mini 8T before, I definitely have a very good feeling about this, particularly having already taken the body off of the car. As I say, fully adjustable suspension. You should be able to take this thing out racing from the outset. Fully adjustable turnbuckles, fully adjustable aluminum shocks, both front and rear, so you can tweak all of the suspension and steering geometry to your heart's content on here. And that suspension, man, I have a feeling this thing is gonna be smooth as butter. Now, I will say at the outset, if you are a fan of the WL Toys 124019, you will see quite a few similarities on this car. But being an LC racing model, like I said, it's like the Rolls Royce of WL Toys cars on there. The whole thing feels a lot better engineered. Whether that's just the plastics, the look and feel of it, I'm not quite sure. But it definitely feels like it is upped its game over the WL Toys car, of which there are quite a few similarities, particularly say like the steering on there, but then the servo setup completely different. We've got a 3-wire servo in here connected to our brushless 4500 kV motor, and we've got a Hobbywing ESC on the top, and being Hobbywing, it's completely programmable, interconnector doing the powering duties. And as I say, we've got a second Gens Ace 1800 mAh 20C 2S battery on there. So where this car shows its quality is that suspension. This thing is just gonna float like a butterfly, and I have a feeling sting like a bee with that 4,500 kV motor. Very good feel about this one indeed. Just remember, guys, if you like what you see today, don't forget to subscribe. So time for the first run of the LC Racing emb-t around my yard, and I have a feeling this thing is going to be quite a handful indeed. There is a little bit of an issue I have at the car with the start of this video. The solution, however, is very simple indeed. Okay, well, time to give the LC Racing emb-t its first run, and the brakes are probably some of the best on an RC car I've ever driven straight out the box. Absolutely fearsome. I mean, they're ridiculous. They are absolutely ridiculously good. In fact, it's going to wear the front tyres out in no time. Ooh, not happy about that. Now, that horrendous noise it was making, it isn't the diff at all. It's the tyres fouling on the body on full lock. That can be amended by a little bit of work for some scissors, so let me do that right now. With the bodywork sorted out, we can now turn on full throttle with absolute impunity, and the handling on this thing, just the brakes are just absolutely keeping it child friendly. Stupid. Anybody who wants to buy a fast car for themselves or the kids that they can't lose control of in emergency, you buy this. Man, this thing is going to handle, I can tell, around the jumps and stuff like an absolute demon. The steering dual rate is turned up to the maximum at the minute on air, but you can alter that from the transmitter, obviously. Fly state transmitter, the response on the thing is absolutely instantaneous. Whatever input you're putting in, throttle, steering, very quick indeed, as is the whole car. And man, this is no point and shoot machine. This thing is all about the handling, and man, wondering what the top speed is? I shall be testing this later on this week, but oh man, oh, grass, there's some grass. Let's see how good it is over grass. Full throttle over grass. Ooh, a little bit kicked around on there. Okay, full throttle the other way. Oh, not quite as super smooth as I thought, but like I say, show the good and the bad. Feed that power in now, and man, I think that was wheeling. That was wheeling on the top there. And that was definitely a wheelie. Man, this thing around a track over jumps is just going to be ferociously fast. I think the LC Racing name certainly lives up to the performance on here. Woo. And those brakes, I can tell you right now, this is one of the best cars yours truly has ever driven. Handling on this thing, little bit of understeer almost on there, but it's not surprising with those wide front tyres. But it's like a slot car with no rails. This is great. This is on 2S, but just you've got to love those brakes. Steering radius, it's just ridiculously tight. Build the speed up on there, and it wants to understeer a bit. I pushed hard, but at the same time, well, you can provoke it to lift off the oversteer, but this is one of the fastest cars I've tested around the yard. Just this thing is giving child friendly, Rich. Absolutely nuts. Well, there are cars you test, cars you drive once in a while, and your first impressions stick forever in your mind. The LC Racing emb-t is definitely one of those. Running this video on just 2S. Absolutely, to use that Richie phrase, plain bonkers. Handling is, or if you wanted a fast car, but beginner or advanced person, I would say this ticks so many boxes, it's ridiculous. You're not going to get yourself into trouble in a hurry in this car, even in a small space like this. God knows how fast that thing is. I'm thinking this thing could do 45, 50 out the box quite easily. We shall put that to the test later on this week. Well, people, I test an awful lot of RC cars on this channel. I buy a lot, people send me a lot, friends loan me a lot of them. But this is one of the best handling RC cars I think I have ever driven straight out of the box. If you're looking at it, you're thinking, oh, it's just got some similarities to WL Toys cars, Rich, in terms of suspension, etc. This is a completely different beast and worth every single cent to my mind. I'm going to put the GPS on this later on this week. I'm thinking about 45, we might hit about 50 miles an hour. That is not what this car is necessarily about. This thing is all about the handling, which it does with absolute aplomb. And that braking, don't even get me started on the braking, which is awesome. And after having caned it around the yard, you will notice all four of the tyres are wearing fairly evenly. We've not got heavy wear on the front, we've not got heavy wear on the rear, which is definitely a sign of a very well engineered car indeed. The handling on the car at any speed is simply sublime. This feels like an RC car, which should cost a couple of $100 more than it does. Might be small in size, not in stature. If you thought this car looked good when it was unboxed, if you thought I was raving on about it a bit too much, forget it. I wasn't. I was not raving on about it enough. This thing is an absolute demon to drive. Handling, performance, brakes, this thing has it all. There are cars, as I say, there are cars you get occasionally which you think, they're okay, they're quite good, and there are cars which just set your world alight, and this thing is just a game changer to my mind. Quite probably one of the best handling RC cars that I have ever driven. This thing is just absolutely bonkers around my yard, and this thing's probably going to hit maybe 40, 45 miles an hour, maybe 50. It's hugely predictable, we'll put up with a heck of a bump, and that suspension has to be seen, felt and driven to be believed, because it is just sublime. This is, I've not tweaked anything on the car, and this is, like I say, one of the best RC cars I have ever driven. I'm sorry for ranting about this thing too much, but I have fallen in love with this. Just wondering if they sell a bigger one. Now, battery life, if anyone is wondering about the LiPo it comes with, that Genzace 1800 milliamp LiPo. 2S, bear in mind, I've been thrashing the heck out of it around the yard for over 20 minutes, and it is still going as strong as it was the minute I started out. Outstanding. And it comes with two of them. If you want a fast car that you can't do an awful lot wrong with, and which will make you look like a driving god, and I think its handling is just simply sublime. Absolutely sublime. I mean, you could, this is a tiny yard, and this thing, 4,500 kV brushless motor, and you can give it full throttle brake and not anything. Doesn't get much better than this. Well, my fellow drifting maniacs, I have to say, straight out of the box, this is the best handling RC car I have ever driven. And I do mean that, as I test an awful lot of cars. This thing, different world. Well, thumbs up if you like this video, guys. Post any comments you might have in the comment section below the video, and hit the circle below to subscribe. And if you do hit the circle, don't forget to hit the bell.